Canadian, a magnificent train with a rich history and a worldwide reputation for first-class service. Since its inaugural run on April 24, 1955, as Canadian Pacific's premier passenger train, the Canadian has seen numerous changes, including not only the passing of its ownership to Via Rail Canada in 1978, but a number of route modifications. These changes finally ended with the train relinquishing CP's main line in favor of the more northerly Canadian National Line, the route of its former rival, the Supercontinental. Over time, one element has remained constant, the pride and dedication of the people involved with trains number 1 and 2. The skills of a multitude of people are employed in the operation of the Canadian, and you'll see a great number of them as Rail Innovations presents Working Number 1. Our behind-the-scenes look at train number 1 will start at Toronto, then continue northwest towards Capreol, the first leg of the Canadian's 2,747-mile westbound journey. As it has from the first day, the Canadian departs from majestic Union Station in downtown Toronto. The station itself is an architectural gem and covers an entire city block along Front Street. 3 days per week, the station's giant departure board displays the 11 a.m. departure of Via Train number 1, and at around 10:30, boarding begins for one of the world's most renowned trains, the classic stainless steel Canadian. But before we continue, let's roll back the clock 13 hours to 21:35 the previous evening as train number 2, the eastbound Canadian, arrives in Toronto. Having left Vancouver 3 days earlier, number 2 has crossed 5 provinces, operated under 4 time zones, and made 68 regular, plus a number of flag stops during its eastbound journey. Quite a trip, yet by 11 a.m. the next morning, the consist will be heading back west as number 1. Once passengers have detrained, linens are removed and the meal service cars stripped of commissary supplies. Then once the all-clear is received, the crew takes the train to the Toronto Maintenance Centre and hands it over to the TMC personnel. The first order of business is the fueling of the locomotives and a check of functional equipment. The tank of each locomotive is filled to its 6,820-liter capacity, a procedure that will be repeated at 6 other points across the country during the train's westbound trip. With the first unit now fueled, the train is moved ahead, and while fueling of the second locomotive is completed, jumper cables between the engines are removed in preparation for the locomotives to be remarshaled. Once the locomotives are recoupled to the train, the entire consist is then run through the wash rack. A combination of cleaning solution, water, powerful brushes, and a high-pressure rinse ensure a superb sparkle to the stainless steel of the Canadian. With the exterior wash complete, Number 1's consist now departs the wash track, then is shoved back to one of TMC's ready tracks. Though sparkling on the outside, during the night, cleaners will ensure the interior is spotless and minor maintenance work will be performed throughout the train. Sunrise finds most of the trains already gone from the Toronto Maintenance Centre, and Number 1's consist is no exception. A quick glance at Union Station's Track 6 finds parked car Kootenay Park, in company with other cars carrying names long associated with a famous Canadian. A close look reveals the outline of the original Canadian Pacific beaver shields. The classic CP logos may be gone, but the traditions of service and dedication live on. With sunrise casting a reddish tinge on the stone walls of the Great Hall, the station's silence is soon broken by the rush of commuters arriving from GO trains. It's many years now since the night sleepers disgorge passengers at this hour, after arrivals from many of the distant names etched beneath the arched ceiling. In another part of the station, away from the crowds, last-minute checks are made of the commissary supplies for Number 1. Soon after, the first load heads for trackside to be loaded aboard the train's meal service cars. Back in the Great Hall, the continuous flow of travelers keeps the ticket counters busy, while redcaps hustle bags to waiting trains. Last-minute maintenance checks confirm that the locomotives are indeed operating perfectly. Rated at 3,000 horsepower each, these 16-cylinder diesels provide both motive power and electricity to light, heat, and cool the entire train. Immediately behind the locomotives, numerous bags of fresh linen are loaded aboard the baggage car for use in the sleepers, dining car, and skylines. Without the option of an onboard laundry, an ample supply of clean linen is a real necessity. Further back, the activity continues as the onboard services people are busy preparing for the arrival of their guests. Throughout the Canadian, coffee is made, pillows fluffed, stationery and guidebooks are distributed, and additional commissary supplies are loaded in storage areas.
Paper napkins for lunch. No? Okay.
Downstairs at the crew center, Number 1's train crew is checking operating bulletins and discussing any special notices or planned work programs that will possibly affect the train's operation. As they finish their paperwork, it should be noted that as with each leg of the Canadian's journey, a number of individual crews handle each district. This program features several of them working the Toronto Capreol assignment. Also, the position of conductor has been abolished by Via Rail.
Yes, we are. Okay, okay. 242s. 242.
As boarding time approaches, the departure concourse around Gate 6 is a hive of activity. While a long line of Number 1's economy class passengers patiently await the boarding call, those traveling silver and blue class, Via's trademark for first class, check in, then relax in an adjoining lounge.
You're going to car 132 in this bedroom.
The operating crew has now made its way to the train. As the locomotive engineers climb aboard and stow their gear prior to doing their own inspection of the units, 3 cars back, the conductor boards, then proceeds to set up his office at one of the coach tables. The last of the checked bags have now been received in the station's baggage room, and after a short trip up the freight elevator, they are loaded aboard the baggage car and placed according to destination. During peak periods, baggage car space can be at a premium, especially if canoes are boarded as the train traverses northern Ontario. Baggage tags reflect the importance of their destination. Printed tags for larger, more popular centres, rubber stamps for the lesser places, and handwritten tags for the true whistle stops. At the baggage car desk, a multitude of unused tags await bags loaded at unmanned stations. With departure time less than 30 minutes away, red caps hustle along with bags needed during the journey. Once the bags are placed in the appropriate accommodation, they'll head back for another load. Passenger load departing Toronto today shows 166 coach passengers plus 180 with sleeper accommodation. From the top of the escalator, right along the train's 19-car consist, passengers are directed to the appropriate car number, conveniently displayed at the door of each car. Passengers soon relax in the comfort of the Canadian sleeping cars. While in the Skyline Galley, the chef prepares the ingredients for fresh omelets. At the coach vestibule, passengers, assisted by the ever-friendly crew, continue with boarding, finding the perfect seat or just anticipating the 11 a.m. departure.
Anybody smoke? Anybody want smoking? Where are we going?
Following a tradition as old as railroading itself, Number One's engineer, with arms crossed, leans out to join in a last-minute conversation before departure. That says it all. It's 11 a.m.
Okay. See you in a couple of weeks. All right.
With the conductor aboard and the goodbyes said, it's time to roll.
Coach, the head end of train number 1, okay to go. Okay to go on number 1.
Head end number 1, John Street.
John Street, over.
Number 1, all set to depart off track 6.
You're all set to depart off of track 6. Okay, thank you, number 1, John Street out.
As the departure route for Number 1 is selected by the John Street Train Movement Director, switch points move and signal indications change. With the signals now indicating slow clear, the brakes are released and Number 1 departs Toronto.
Back up, 5 cars in all red, I'll go over the 3 with it. Roger, 4.
A temporary lull in activity gives the John Street TMD a chance to observe Number 1's departure. John Street Tower, which lost its traditional peaked roof to permit access bridges to the CN Tower and Sky Dome, controls train movements on the west side of Union Station.
they're in the database here. They're just trying to get things fixed up so I can give you a light.
As Union Station, the famous CN Tower, and the Toronto skyline fade in the distance, Number 1 takes on a life of its own. Tickets are collected, conversations are struck, and new friendships form as passengers of all ages begin to relax in the friendly atmosphere of the train. In the Skyline car's dining area, light lunches are ordered and freshly prepared in the small galley. Once the tickets are collected and the initial paperwork completed, a walk through the coaches confirms everything is operating properly. As Number 1 heads north on CN's Bala subdivision, we pass Vancouver-bound intermodal train 119, near the northern limit of double track. Over its entire route, Number 1 will be monitored by rail traffic controllers. Using radio, power switches, and trackside signals, RTCs ensure the efficient movement of trains over their territory.
204 is meeting Number 1 at Quacker.
213 is leaving Macgareth.
Once you go. It'll be for 310.
With Number 1's meet at Capreol set up, 64 miles to the north, a track patrol continues its inspection. Maintenance crews work closely with RTCs so required work can be performed safely, without undue delay to trains.
.119 coming to Woodward, oversighting. 101 Pefferlaw oversighting, and then Number 1 at Quaker.
In constant radio contact, the RTCs provide train locations and assigned time blocks, after which work crews must be clear of approaching trains.
Detector, Bala 3-1, no alarm. Oh, go ahead.
4 miles north of the Quaker meeting point, the electronic trackside defect detector has given Number 1 the all-clear message as the train accelerates to track speed. Number 1 carves through the rolling topography north of Toronto, the 4 scenic dome cars not only offer a superb view, but great places to meet new friends and converse. Ahead in the baggage car, tags are double-checked by the assistant conductor to ensure they are in the appropriate stack. Then each tag number is recorded for the records department.
show.
45 miles north of Toronto, number 1 takes the siding for southbound freight 336. Soon after the meet, 1 has accelerated back to the 70-mile-per-hour track speed, once again putting a blur on the passing scenery. The train is now skirting the eastern shore of Lake Simcoe, one of the largest bodies of water the train will pass. Connected to the Trent-Severn waterway, the lake is extremely popular with boaters. While reading may be one of the favorite pastimes for passengers, the train's service manager is constantly ensuring passenger expectations are met and that things are running smoothly for his 25-member onboard service crew. The noise of the locomotive cab strikes a stark contrast to the quiet corridors of the sleepers. Different again is the convivial atmosphere of the train's dining car.
Okay, sir.
All meals in the dining car are prepared fresh, right from scratch, and to work in this kitchen takes a special skill. Though fully equipped, it is minuscule by normal restaurant standards, and of course constantly in motion. The crew consistently prepares and serves 4-course meals to 48 guests per sitting, in a setting often more pleasant and certainly more unique than in most first-class restaurants. The train's onboard service staff put in long days, usually about 5 a.m. to midnight. Based out of Winnipeg, this crew worked number 2 to Toronto, had a short layover, and are now working home to complete their 4-day cycle.
This is the coaches at Washego, isn't it? Yeah. No second spots in it.
Approaching Washego, 89 miles north of Toronto, and the Canadians' first passenger stop, the topography changes almost instantly, from that of flat agricultural land to a rugged landscape of rock, lakes, and rivers. The combination of glistening stainless steel rolling through beautiful scenery makes the Canadian a favorite with photographers. Over its entire route, it is not uncommon to spot them trying for that one perfect shot. Washego, and as at most stops for the Canadian, a fair number of passengers await today's train.
One coach. That'll do when you get her stop number 1.
Okay, open your doors, ASC. Okay, open doors.
Passengers boarded, a friendly wave from the engine crew, and number 1 is once again on its way west. For the next 1,000 miles, number 1 traverses the Canadian Shield, a region of million-year-old rock that lies between the Great Lakes and Hudson Bay. For early railway builders, This vast rugged area of granite rock and countless lakes and rivers often proved more of a challenge than the crossing of the Canadian Rockies. "60 miles north of Washego, number 1 crosses the Seguin River as it follows a horseshoe curve around the town of Perry Sound, where a short passenger stop is made. Rolling once again, number 1's passengers bask in the attention of the dedicated personnel assigned to this fine train. For them, it's not just a job, but a matter of pride to be working number 1.